So if you're like me right now, maybe you have some anxiety, maybe you have some fear, you have maybe unplanned time, and a lot of unplanned time may be available or having to deal with responsibilities in a different way. I mean, we're all going through this together around the globe. And isn't that funny that we share something like this? Truly, it does not matter where you are in the world, what status you have in the world, from the standpoint of we are, as humans, dealing with a virus that does not discriminate. And I know for me, I've had some anxiety around that. I mean, you just don't know. It's uncertain. We don't know who to believe. There's information, there's non information. And so here we are, we're left with this opportunity to sort through information for ourselves and to make a decision, and make lots of decisions for ourselves on how we want to react. And I think that's really a key word, is react. There is a difference between reacting and responding. And there are absolutely times where we must react when something is dangerous, or you've got to do something right away. There is also a time for responding, which is the response is more thought out typically. You put a little bit of time between when the stimulus or something happens to you and what you decide to do with it. And so in this time of response, as we all decide how we want to respond to this, how we respond, staying safe, social distance, which is a new term for me, what that's like, being able to speak to someone without touching, without shaking hands, all these things, remote learning, distance learning, all these things are coming up for us as new skills. And look at that as new skills, because doesn't it really show us that we still want to connect with each other? It's important for us to do that. It's just we have to find different ways of doing that. And so I do want to recognize that this is also a time that people can feel very isolated, a lot of fear, a lot of panic. And I recognize that. And those are normal human emotions. At the same time, I think juxtaposed is this opportunity to spend some time in different ways that we, oftentimes say, oh, if I only had this time, if I only had more time, if I only had more time, I'd learn how to play the guitar, or I'd learn Spanish, or I would, watch this documentary, or I would read a book. Well, we may have all just been handed that time. Whether or not we rail against it, we may have just been given that time. So that time can be used in ways that maybe we have pushed it off or kind of discounted because of our busyness. I'm not saying that we're all still not busy, but the busyness has shifted. The busyness has taken on a different form. So there is absolutely the need to take care of yourself, your family, do the things that you want to do as far as your response to what's been happening in the world. But there is also some time in there for you. Because in chaos, when everything is going crazy, we're not sure what to do. Who are you? Who do you want to be? Are you the person in the center of that, of that turbulence that's happening that can bring a little bit of calm and peace to a situation? But you know as well as I do that in order to do that, you've got to have that inside. And so perhaps this time, I know for me it is. For me, it's like, oh, I have lost some of my practices over the last couple of weeks. As they do. I've, there are days where I'm like really good about my disciplines, about sitting quietly in the morning, doing some mindfulness practices, doing my yoga, taking walks, eating well, all these things that I know I need to fully function in the world. They go by the wayside. Little by little, life gets busy. And so here I am with this opportunity to say, okay, now things are slowing down, right? We're not going out to places. Traveling is grounded. Maybe your commute times are less. So what are you going to do with all that time? Don't waste it. Don't waste this opportunity that we have, maybe to learn the guitar or to learn a language. Or how about read a book? How many times have we said that? I've said it. I don't have time to read a fiction book. Well, maybe we've just been given that time. Maybe that's kind of the opportunity we have for real true connection, And here's my gift is that, as things happen in the world around you, there is a resource that you always have that is always with you. And that resource is actually you. And who are you? That's another whole big question we could talk about. But within yourself, there's an essence of who you are, right? The person that is sorting through the information, the person that is listening, the person that's listening to all the voices in your head, that essence of you. What if you turn to that, especially during this time, and you strengthen that connection? And I don't know what that looks like for you, but for me, it does look like being silent. It looks like taking walks in nature. Hey, that's a safe thing to do. To really connecting, listening to music, playing music, and take that time for yourself right now, because it's here. Like it's like a major snow day. If you grew up with snow, right? School's canceled. You have an unplanned day. How often do we say, I wish I had a day. I wish I had a mental health day. I wish sometimes, unfortunately, we say, I wish I could just get sick. Did you ever feel that? God, if I could just feel sick, just so I was sick, so I could have some downtime, and kind of escape from my regular routines. Guess what? It's been given to us. So do those things. Here's another suggestion I have. I was talking to a friend of mine about social media and how a lot of times this is good, right? It's a source of information, but it can also feed the fear in a way that's not helpful. So maybe the answer isn't to cut off social media, but maybe it's changing your relationship to social media. Maybe it's actually taking the time to seek out some resources that you want to follow that are really supportive of things that you've been wanting to learn or causes that you've been wanting to follow. For things that are deep interests for yourself, but you haven't taken the time to feed them, maybe you start to search those out because they exist. The other thing is there are a lot of wonderful organizations that are offering free webinars right now, free virtual sessions to connect. And why not take those? There's one that I just saw. There's a festival going on in Colorado that they canceled, and there's Ayurvedic teachers, which is the ancient science of medicine, probably the very first method of medicine in a large system um, in our whole humanity, is being offered as a free webinar. And that's just one example. There are yoga classes that are being taught online. There's a lots of learning that's available through this internet, and it will connect you in different ways. So maybe you do that. Maybe you actually rest. Maybe you turn everything off and take a nap. Again, how many times? I said that so many times. I would wish I could just take a nap in the middle of the day. Who has time for naps? Oh, if I could just stop my work and nap under my desk, I would do it. Well, we might have a time for naps now. Play around with that. I mean, there's so many lists in my head going right now, including maybe cooking weeks worth of meals so that I can grab something and eat healthy. But anyway, find those for yourself. Take the time. Here's what I'm going to say. Take the time for self connection, yourself connection, getting to know yourself, the number one resource in your life, which is you. You've got your back. So work on that with yourself. Number two, connect in other ways. Connect positively in other ways. Take a look at the way you're doing that and change it, because now is the time. Three, learn something. Use that brain in a different way. Create some new skill for yourself and some excitement. And maybe find some joy and enjoyment during this. I know that it's scary, and I know that we fear, and those are important things to listen to as well. Keep yourself safe. But in the meantime, I hope that you find pockets of gold and pockets of joy as we all weather this together. And I hope to see you back here, maybe in a couple days or a couple weeks, and we'll talk about what's happening then. But for right now, you've got the time in front of you. Use that. Make the most of it. I wish you well.